Hello, and welcome to the JWST Exposure Time Calculator. In this video, we will explore the different extraction options for the NIRSpec IFU and MIRI MRS modes in the ETC. There are two extraction options, called strategies, that can be used to calculate the signal-to-noise ratio for IFU calculations. We begin in an open workbook with the MIRI MRS calculation, though everything discussed in this video also applies to NIRSpec IFU calculations. Clicking on the calculation and going to the Strategy tab in the Calculation Editor pane, we see a drop-down located at the top of the tab. This drop-down is where you select the strategy. The drop-down currently reads IFU nod in scene, which is the default strategy. Clicking on the drop-down presents a second option, IFU nod off scene. If we look at the Images pane, we see two PSFs, one positive and one negative. The nod in scene strategy uses a scene with the PSF at the center, shifts the scene based on the nod values in the Strategy tab, then subtracts the shifted scene from the original. The signal-to-noise ratio is then extracted at both positions and combined. If we look at the Detector Setup tab, we see that the total exposure time has been calculated for two integrations, even though only one was specified. This is because the signal-to-noise ratio is being calculated at both positions, so the total time is double the time specified by the calculation parameters. Now let's go back to the Strategy tab and instead select the IFU nod off scene strategy. Doing so generates an error related to the wavelength of slice, which is the wavelength at which the values in the report pane are calculated. An error is thrown because the ETC does not remember the wavelength of slice for multiple strategies. This issue is easily fixed. The Instrument Setup tab has also turned red due to this warning. Clicking on the Instrument Setup tab presents the error message and a button with the option to set the wavelength of slice to the central wavelength of the grating. Clicking on this button will automatically update the wavelength of slice to a valid value and remove the error. Moving to the Detector Setup tab, we see that the Total Integrations box reports a value of 1 for the nod off scene strategy, matching the value specified. Note that the total time is half that when using the nod in scene strategy, even though we did not change the parameters on the Detector Setup tab. We will click the Calculate button to run the calculation, then look at the Images pane when the calculation completes. The nod off scene strategy mimics a dedicated background observation. It uses a scene with the PSF at the center, then subtracts the simulated background scene. The signal-to-noise is calculated from a single pointing. Calculation is now complete, and this time we see only a single PSF in the image. But which strategy is best to use? The answer depends on the properties of the source being observed. The nod in scene strategy is recommended for compact sources for which observations of a dedicated background are not needed. The nod off scene strategy is highly recommended for extended sources, which are more likely to require dedicated background observations. This concludes the video on IFU strategies in the ETC. If you would like additional information on how to use the JWST ETC, see the links in the description for this video. Thank you.